Hi, I'm Dean Sage.
And I'm Jack Curvin.
And this is Show Me Your Deck,
a podcast where we explore the intersections of oracles and chakras,
using our original decks to create new insights. Episode 37, trucking right along.
Nice. And it's been a while, but we have some pixie magic gremlin static happening in the technology today. It's been a while.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going well right now, but we had to do our separate recording just in case, because we don't want to in the middle of the recording and ruin the whole thing.
I thought it was happening right there, but you were just imitating it. I was like, wait, something's happening.
Yeah, no. Oh, it's, I mean, it's amazing that we can do this. Like, this is pretty incredible that, we can telecom a podcast and talk and, not be at the same table with the same microphones and stuff.
Yep.
It's pretty incredible.
In the future.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better than like smoke signals or something.
That's just true. That's true. Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
just the way the technology's grown. Like, I'm a big Star Trek fan, so like, I watched in the 80s The Next Generation, and they had laptops and iPads and wireless communicators, and now we've got everything but the computer, it seems. And even our computers are pretty good.
Yeah, that's true. We don't didn't they have a robotic maid or something?
Oh, that was the Jetsons.
That's the Jetsons. That's right.
No, actually, the Star Trek is devoid of robots, which is very interesting. Like, they had an android, but like actually like robots that just like do tasks and things, which you would, most sci-fi authors had. Star Trek was like, no, we're not going to do robots. And then in the new Star Trek, they introduced robots. Data's an android. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, but in the new Star Trek, they introduced robots. So they actually, like, in the past had robots, but only on one ship.
And it didn't go well.
No, and then the ship got flung, 1,000 years into the future, and now it's like all antiquated, but also not. It was Discovery.
Oh, these robots.
Discovery was a interesting series. I'll give it that. It was the first black female captain, which was really cool. That was really cool.
I remember seeing screen caps of that.
And it had it was a very, very well balanced crew. Like, you had different races, different genders. It was very well balanced. For a TV show, to have that kind of balance is pretty.
Speaking of Star Trek and gender, I don't remember which movie it was, but somebody got kicked in the knee, and they're like, "Not everyone's genitals are in the same place."
Oh, that's Undiscovered Country, I think.
Oh, I was like, oh, well, there you have it. I guess
that's a great line.
You gotta chuckle.
That's a great line. That's the original series cast there. They had some great movies. Oh, well, let's get some context and
all right.
See if it takes us back to Star Trek.
Roll this tetrahedron and get the robots out.
Tetrahedron.
Oh God, it rolled away. Where did it go? Hold on.
Fairy magic.
Oh, yeah, there too, right? It's everywhere. We're going to deck number 4, which are the haiku. Hold on, let me get this tetrahedron back. Come here. All right. And then the one with 50 sides, whatever that's called, dodecahedron or something. No, that's 12.
That's 12, yeah.
Quindeca? I don't even know what 50-sided would even be.
Quince? I have no idea. I don't know that much Latin.
Quincideci? I don't know. So,
or is it Greek that we do those? No, I think it's Greek that we do the numbers in.
Penta then.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so it has 50 sides. If we roll 50, then you get to just choose one randomly. But that's not happened yet on the show. So
that has not happened yet.
No, watch it happen right now.
Pixie magic.
All right, so haiku deck, and this will be number.
It's just rolled completely away.
It is 35.
Okay. So deck number 4, number 35.
Yes. So the haiku, number 35. Oh, this is pretty. This is the Vishuddha sequence. So throat, aqua, air, and how it is influenced by anahata, heart, green, wood. So the way in which you communicate is affected by the connections that you make.
Communicate connections. Okay. All right. Let's hear it.
Savage gales uproot. Willows shattered limbs pining. Live oaks dauntless sway. Savage gales uproot. Willows shattered limbs pining. Live oaks dauntless sway.
So immediately I'm caught by the pun, the pining.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So that's just where my brain's at the moment.
I see you.
Yes. The wind, is it untrue or true? Like wind in your deck seems to be very strong and almost like in this case it's violent. Like do you like, is your throat chakra strong and violent? is that where your haiku come from?
All like that. You also have the dulcet silver flute.
I mean, that's true. That's true. Okay.
I think now that you ask, it might not be my throat chakra. It's the way I've experienced other people's throat chakras, especially when it comes to insults or gossip and rumors and, going viral on the internet and seeing what people do with their throat chakras.
Interesting. Yeah, I was struck by the pun. I was struck by the intensity of the image.
The underlying metaphor is a gale.
Yeah,
very and how strong. Trees are thrown around in gales. The idea being that the idea here is that you have to learn how to take criticism. And the ways in which you capture some of what people say in your leaves and in your limbs, and how some of it has to pass right through, and how do you weather those types of storms, and what can you still take from something in a conversation or feedback session that sounds destructive, but what can you still get from it? How can you be shaped by it? How can your roots, drive down even deeper? How do you weather that? Because if you are inflexible, there's some trees that snap in half, but then you've got trees like willows. Well, see, one of the problems with willows is they sway so much that they can just split right down the middle of the trunk.
Well, they've got so much weight distributed outward.
And then you've got live oaks, and they're still massive, but they twist around, they make these shapes, and they find the ways to remain balanced, and they can live for hundreds of years. Like if you go to Savannah or Charleston or even Aiken, South Carolina, you'll see these live oaks that are like, they may have been around. They might have seen the Civil War. Think of all the storms that have come through since then, and they still survive and grow. They're shaped. That's for certain. But you're going to have conversations with people. There's no way to avoid that. So, how are you interacting with what they say?
Well, and wood here is the heart. So, how is the wind, the gale, the throat affecting the heart, and how you take it, how you roll it around inside? For me, the heart is grief and joy and peace. The state between those two sort of extremes. And in this haiku, there's not very much peace. There's very much, just wind rushing. Do you ever feel at peace when you hear the wind? Is it a peaceful thing for you?
No, because even if it's good or interesting or engaging or complimentary, it still requires a reaction from me. I mean, it might be gracious or, whatever, but it still requires something from me. And I think that probably grows also out of needing to survive around bullies. Because middle school and high school and college were not good. They were not. And I mean, there were plenty of people who liked me very much, but I had my detractors, and they were crazy. And this was the early 90s, and I was openly gay in a little town in Georgia, and they lost their minds because I wasn't ashamed of who I ended up being. It was bad enough that I was gay, but I was actually okay with it. And they were not okay with me being okay. And so even when people would say something positive, it would be within the context of, okay, that's good. That's on balance with this other stuff that was not. And then when you get to college and graduate school, all these different conversations are specifically and supposed to be uprooting. You know, if you go to a good college or university, it will be way, way, way beyond anything you did in high school. And if you go to graduate school, that should be way, way, way beyond anything you did in college. I mean, it should really destroy and rebuild what you think you know about the world. And that was my experience at UCLA. I mean, I came out of there with so many more interesting ideas, but a lot of my preconceived notions had to be torn away, and they were drilled into me in college. So it was difficult to let go of them.
I had that experience in grad school as well, the letting go. I went to a Christian university both times, and I came out. It was interesting. I went through my first program was biblical studies, and I came out of it questioning a lot, because I don't think you cannot, like, if you're really studying the text and you're really studying the culture that it came from and doing real exegesis, which is trying to take the meaning out of the context, out of the words that were used, trying to recontextualize it for the metaphors of the time, and then realizing what's being said is not what, 2,000 years of history has said that it was. It's actually very different. So I came out questioning, but I was still pretty fundamental in a lot of beliefs, I think, because I'd been raised that way. And a lot of the other parts of the school definitely enhanced those same beliefs, because it was a Christian university with a Christian worldview and a Christian mindset. They had church 3 days a week, and there was just this strong pull towards these standard beliefs. And then when I got into my grad school program, I was faced with people from different backgrounds that really hadn't come through a Christian university like mine, and they were all Christian mostly that came to the school. So there was still kind of that shared mindset. However, they challenged different things. So like I had never really interacted with LGBT people for the first, at all. I'm sure I had. Nobody was out because it was a Christian university. Sure. There was a men's choir. I interacted with gays.
It was a thing.
Yeah, there were gays, but none of them were out. But now I was interacting with out gay people for the first time, and people that came from UCLA and had this wide experience in college, and it was definitely eye-opening, and it kind of met me at the same time that I was questioning. And as I grew in the grad school program, I really started to question that it was growing into disbelief, at least from a traditional point of view. So I relate to that.
Yeah. And so I suppose there is a lot of upheaval and violence in my decks when it comes to air. I'd have to look at them all, but I know that there is the dulcet silver flute, so I know it's not all it's not all gloom and doom.
And I remember we had a really good conversation about the dulcet silver flute. So yeah,
when Notre Dame in Paris reopened.
Yeah. And we talked about the pipe organ and stuff. So yeah, I mean there's things in your Win that aren't that way, but I was struck by the power of this image.
Yeah, well, criticism, I've had some really devastating experiences with criticism. So I guess the reminder, and this is me coming through in my deck, right? So I guess the reminder here is that people will say, they're going to use their words in ways that you can't control. So are you going to split and get knocked down by it? Or are you going to let some of it move through your boughs and leaves and not catch it all and let some of it go away? There's another one that's actually quite violent with wind and wood. I think it's the inverse of this, and that's the one that's actually even in some ways maybe worse. That's the one where the tree is actually permanently blown into a new shape because it's sitting on a cliff over the ocean and it's completely deformed. So, yeah, I can see how my relationship to criticism has been impactful.
Well, I think for this reading, though, the image, you said deformed, and I immediately was like, well, is it, or is it adapted?
Yeah. And that's why the photograph in that, no. See, when I was originally doing some of this stuff, I was going to use the bonsai, but I didn't. I specifically did not use bonsai for metal and wood. I have to go through. I haven't looked at some of this stuff for a while.
Well, I think for this context, for this reading, we are talking about the way that, and in one of my cards when I was doing my shuffle, like I shuffle the cards before we do the reading to kind of just warm them up.
Yeah. Ruffle the fluff.
Yeah. And one of the cards that came out while I was doing that was "You are released from your grief."
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, is sort of talking to us in this case, is that we need to release the grief aspect of this and take sort of the idea of malformed or adapted. And I think we need to look towards adapted rather than malformed, because it's a very judgmental point of view to say something is malformed by its experience when it's still here. Like you said, the trees that have seen the Civil War. Is the oldest tree a sequoia? Is that correct?
Yeah. The ones out in the West that live for thousands of years.
Yeah. There you go again, like thousands, right? So you have to adapt to your environment to live a long time, to live fruitfully, right? We'll use another tree metaphor there. To live longevity, you have to adapt. And if one of the things that you have to deal with is the winds of criticism or the winds of change, then, and it's interesting in this case that it's the wind of others really that, you were kind of responding to, and we don't really have the sense of your own voice in this, which is, something maybe the reading will piece out for us. Maybe it'll talk a little bit about our own voice in this, but so the voices of others.
As a framework, we're looking at the other cards within the context of remaining adaptable.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And being who we are in the space of what we experience and not judging the shape that we become, but understanding it. And I think childhood trauma, fits into this incredibly.
So then going forward, looking at the ways in which we survive change, and it's not deformation, it's adaptation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense. Let's see what my deck has to offer to this. I'm wondering if we're going to have any storms here, because my heart chakra is kind of like your throat chakra. It's very windy. All right, here we go. Nope, we went with the second chakra. This is the 9 of waves. Atop the wave, your wish is carried to you. Atop the wave, your wish is carried to you. So this is called the wish card. It's the 9 of cups in the tarot. And it's about fulfillment. It's in the idea of like manifesting and all that kind of jazz that we've had talks about before. There's a sense of, well, this means that you're going to get exactly what you want if you think hard enough and focus hard enough, and in a Christian context, pray hard enough. Yeah. Obviously, I don't really feel that way, but there is a sense of when your emotions are in tune with you, you can achieve that which you are wishing for, right? That which you are striving for.
So the way I talk about this personally is that manifestation in and of itself is an idea that I don't really subscribe to, but what I do subscribe to is the idea that what you put your mind towards, what you put your attention towards, what you put your effort toward, and then that might create the reality you want. But you just sitting there and wanting it, no.
Well, we know that the observation, not the observation rule. What's it called when you when you observe something, it changes to something. Quantum states are changed by observation. I can't remember the name for that. We know that there are things that are true, that there is something about our connection with what's happening outside of us, that there's an influence that we have. We've known this thousands of years ago because the ancients said, hey, you have an influence on the people around you by, what you do, and your energy goes out and energy comes in. So we do know, like, we're finding that scientifically to be true. In fact, I saw another article recently with the headline that, we actually are influenced by energies and we exude energies. We don't understand it, right? We can't put a label on it and an equation for it yet, but we do know that the effect exists. We observe quantum states, they collapse and become something solid. What we know that they exist in a super state before that. And this is, I think, a moment to say, yes, manifesting isn't, you're not going to manifest $1 million into your life. There's people that focus on things like Biddy Tarot, a very well-known tarot guidebook, and she makes decks and she has a blog. She started it as a blog. She manifested, according to her $1 million and her home and her success. And I say she worked really hard and hit the right things at the right time. Like, she had a blog at a good time. She was talking about a topic that others weren't really talking about at that time, and she was good at it. She's good. Her guidebook is very good. I use it. It instructed me in ways to think about the tarot.
But that still isn't passive manifestation. She's got a blog. She's writing books. She's putting her ideas out there. That's not passive.
And I do believe that she put her energy toward what she was creating, and she did achieve her wish, which was to have an independent living, a very, very successful independent living, doing the thing that she loved, which is this kind of sharing, moment with others and instructing them and guiding them and leading them.
Well, but the key word there that you used is achieved. She did it. She had a goal, she had a dream, she had a direction, she acted toward it, she made product toward it, it was of high quality, and she achieved it. But that's not woo-woo manifestation. That's hard work inspired by a cool dream.
And to your point, it was focus on a goal.
Yeah. It's quite specific. And she did it, and good for her.
So I think it's interesting that this card comes up in this context, right? We were just talking about adaptability, being affected by wind energy, right? The things of others, the words of others. And now we get emotions. We get the second chakra. Here it's about guilt and being free from that guilt. Not feeling like you've done something bad. And that's interesting because we did talk about, judging yourself as being malformed versus adapted. So we've got that energy kind of going here, but this card in particular is talking more about the way our mind is focused on what's going on. And then I think even deeper than that, it's not just the mind. I think it's the emotions. Like, the second chakra is low. It's very low in the body. So there's something about putting your emotional energy towards something that brings about more focus and more overall energy on it. It's not just a mental, I'm going to, I have my mood board. Even the fact we call it a mood board is actually interesting because that's emotional content. But, you've got your task list, let's say. Like, that's great, right? And you could write down all the tasks in the world, but like, I'll just go to my writing. If I'm not emotionally engaged in it, it's not going to be good. It's not going to achieve what I need it to achieve. I'm not going to get toward that goal. Do you find the same things true with personal training?
Well, personal training absolutely has to be goal driven. Without a goal, you're just moving around and sweating. And I have 2 new clients right now. 3. One of them will be on and off. His business picks up in the summer, so we'll call it 2.5. And as with most of my clients, when I start out with them, I need to know, what do you want to do? Because that informs what I design in the first place. So none of my clients have the same workouts because they don't have the same bodies. They don't have the same goals. And one of them, by himself, lost nearly 100 pounds. But the way he did it was not safe. And he reached out to me because he hit plateaus, and nothing he did would help him get past his plateaus. So he has a very clear idea of what he wants to do, but he had no idea how to actually accomplish it. But before we can course correct, I need to know what it is you want. What do you want? And without goals in personal training, you're just grinding your gears.
Well, you use a very strong thing there. I think you didn't use the word desire, but I heard the word desire. Mm-hmm. You said, what do you want? I heard, what do you desire? And that's a very emotional second chakra kind of word.
Mm-hmm.
What do you desire?
Why are you doing this? What is your motivation here? And having a beach body is fine. That's a fine focus. That's fine. Some people it's pain reduction. Some people it's general health. Some people it's trying to reverse or stabilize from osteoporosis or recovery from injury or surgery. I mean, it's different for every person. So I can't come in with a beach body program for somebody who's recovering from surgery.
Right. Well, and this is where I think the wish card's an interesting card, because it's about desires being achieved, but I was very specific. It's not just any wish. It's your true desire, right? Your true wish.
And so what I'm hearing with the broader context from the first card is that you have your true wish and the accomplishment of it, the achievement of it, the plan toward it, the action toward it. And how does that change you? How do you adapt to receive whatever this wish is? Because here's something to consider. You might have a wish that you're not capable of receiving. There's no point in having the goal to lose 100 pounds if you refuse to stop eating ice cream 4 times a day. How do you have to change to receive this bounty?
I want to read my from the book for this one, just because I sometimes find nuggets that I forgot that I wrote. Mm-hmm. The wish card is so easy to know without thinking about it further. Yay, a good card. You get what you want. Simple, easy, done. Yet it is far from. If you wish for $1 million to drop out of the sky, it's highly unlikely this will happen, no matter how many times you draw this card. That doesn't mean you shouldn't wish to have the means to do what you are here to do. It means that wishing and receiving isn't such a simple process. Wishes are intentions with powerful motivation. How will you use these spells to focus yourself and your emotions?
Mm-hmm. And focusing yourself and your emotions is a process of adjustment. It's a rearrangement. It's a recategorization. It's a reprioritization. It's a rethinking of what should come first and what should not.
Well, there's a key, like emotions in the heart, right? We talk about the heart like it is the seat of emotions. In the chakral system, it's not really the seat of emotions, right? The emotions are a little bit deeper, but there are feelings that emanate from the heart. Like I said, grief, joy, peace. But they're deeply tied. The heart is deeply tied to the second chakra, in that's where the deep waters of emotion lay. But we feel things most acutely through our heart, through a more conscious understanding of them. And with the focus of the heart, I think that's where the emotion and the desires kind of become part of your joy, right? Or part of your grief, part of your happiness, part of your peace.
It's a rather nebulous card, because you first have to identify what you even want, let alone want hard enough to wish for, let alone wish for hard enough to change to accomplish.
And you may not know what you want, because a lot of people aren't in touch with their desires and their emotions. The second chakra is often closed and neglected because of guilt, because of being told that you're not supposed to desire things, you're not supposed to want things. You should just be happy with what you have.
Or that what you specifically want, you should be ashamed of naming. I encounter that as well. When I ask people what their goals are, they're afraid to say something that they think will sound superficial. It's like, I shouldn't say that I want to look good. It's like, why shouldn't you say that? You can say that. I need to know that. And I'm not going to judge somebody for wanting to look good. I mean, okay. I mean, that's what I try to impress on people, is that becoming healthy, becoming well, is the source of sexy. You don't look sexy and then become better, because then you start ending up with stuff like muscle implants and strange surgeries.
Or eating disorders.
Or eating disorders, or compulsive exercising. If you make the changes that help you feel more well, that has a deeper foundation in attraction, and you will just become sexy. It will exude from you because you're healthy and well and stable. That's what's attractive.
That's where it's hard, because we intellectually develop a lot of desires, wishes, but they don't stem from the deepness of our emotion. We talked about childhood trauma and being adapted. Some people are going to look like a typical bodybuilder, and some people are not, no matter how much they do. Some people are going to be thin models, and some people are not. And it doesn't matter what you do. You can't change your body type. You can't change what you've undergone, right? What's twisted you in different ways and shaped you in different ways. There's genetics involved in all of this. And no matter what you do, you can't become what you're not.
Well, also, there's the grass is always greener complex. People, myself included, we want to strive. We want to dream. We want to wish. And that implies reaching towards something we don't have. But if you approach this from a position of, lack or failure, then your emotional investment is already kind of tainted. So there are people who are heavier who want to be thinner. There are people who are thinner who want to be bigger. It doesn't really matter. There are people who are hairy who want to get rid of their hair. Then there's other people who shave multiple times trying to get their hair to grow thicker. So people just want what they don't have. I don't know that that's not a criticism. I do that too, but it's an observation to be aware of. And it's a lot more work in some ways to find acceptance with what you have and how to idealize that and how to maximize it and polish it and turn it into the best version of what you've got.
Well, we go again, like I'll take the mood board example again. Like the mood board is often images and quotes or, things that are there to motivate you. You have to kind of step back from that mood board for a second, and you have to ask, what am I really talking about here? And that's where the second chakra really comes into play, because these are deeper than thoughts. These are deeper than passing ideas. You're striving, asking, hungering for something. And the mood board is a snapshot of the intellectual side of it. What's the emotional side? What's the deeper content there? Because when people say, I want a beach body, what are they truly asking for? And it's probably a dose of self-acceptance, probably a dose of recognition by others. It sounds to me like they're dealing with guilt and shame, maybe more shame than guilt. Yeah. But they're asking to accept their body in a way that they don't mind others seeing it, and they can withstand the judgment of others. Because they're always, here's the thing, one person's beach body is one person's non-beach body. Like no one's ever going to look at your body and or I shouldn't say everyone, you're not going to get universal acceptance of a body. You're just not. There was a post about someone, I don't know, it's some influencer, but I don't know who it is. I didn't really care. They were actually pretty bulky. Like they had like kind of like a bulky muscle build. Mm-hmm. And probably had, I don't know what percent body fat, but they had a healthy amount, but there was like, it was not shredded. And then they went to a shredded state where they had shed, probably nearly all their body fat. I don't know if he had any left at the end. And then they asked men and women, who's better, the before or the after? The women chose the before, the one where, he was bulky, healthy to me, it looked like, versus the one after, but all the men chose the one after because it was the shredded,
Well, with heterosexual people, there's a complete mismatch between what men think women want versus what women say they want. So, again, you need to look at what your motivations are. That one client who lost 100 pounds on his own. He was struggling to just tell me what his goal was, and he finally did, and it's achievable. But then he told me the narrative behind it. So to your point about, what the doses are, one dose, yes, self-acceptance, one dose, health, yes. But there's a very specific, very, very specific goal that for summer of 2026, he wants to feel comfortable going to this place. I don't remember where these people are. I don't know who they are. And he wants to be able to be there without his shirt on and to have one of those, oops, you thought I was ugly before, but now I'm cute now and fuck you kind of moments. That's part of his motivation. And, I'm not going to tell him he's right or wrong for it, but it's part of his recipe of motivation.
Well, and there's where the truth of the second chakra comes in. I think there's a desire, right? The revenge body. There's a desire to be desired, to be acknowledged as a worthy object. I think we've got a lot of objectification of bodies in our culture. That makes sense. But I think that's where you need to dig a little deeper when you find yourself in that moment. So if your wish, right? So when this card came out, if your wish was the revenge body, I'll ask you to dig a little deeper, really kind of sit with your emotions, with your waters, and think through what is it that the revenge body you think is going to get you, and then that's your desire, not the state of going to this party and turning heads. That's amazing. If he achieves that, that's wonderful. Good for him. But I think there's something deeper that he's trying to get, which if you acknowledge and accept, then you can achieve that wish. But I think it has less to do with revenge body and more to do with something else. But I get the sentiment. I would love to be able to go to a beach or go swimming and not feel completely like a whale and judged. That would be awesome. I know I'm never going to really achieve anything like a body build. I right now I'm focused on health, right? I'm going to a cardiologist. I gained weight because of an accident. I need to get that weight off. That there's things that I need to do. My desire right now is to not have coronary disease and to live a long, healthy life for my spouse and for my family. And, I've just kind of accepted the way my metabolism works, the way my body stores fat. I'm not going to achieve a twink state, right? Like I'm not going to be whatever the 40-year-old version of a twink is. It's just not in the cards, right? It's not possible. And I have to look at what my true desire is. And my true desire is to be healthy. And my other true desire would be to be desirable. But here's the thing. I already am to some people. That's the crazy thing. And actually
You're married.
Yeah. Well, my spouse pointed this out that the gay community is actually possibly more accepting because there's a type for everybody. Like everybody has a type and everybody can find that type. And I guess maybe it's not just more accepting, but maybe it's just easier because, we're all electronic and digital about it. Be like, I want a chubby guy. It's so easy to connect furries, there's such a connection, that you can make very quickly. So, maybe it's not that we're more accepting. It's just that we advertise better.
More specific. And we don't have the same conceptions about what gender roles are supposed to be. So we don't necessarily look for childbirthing hips, that's not an issue. Yeah.
So the desire, I think the second card is really asking you to think down, maybe even not think, sink down, really and tune yourself with your waters. Feel the ebb and flow, feel the invisible push and pull, feel the weight, and just sort of sit with what is it that I truly desire. And how does that then, going back to our setting card, how does that affect the way we've adapted, the way that we've become who we are? And how does that desire align with where we are as a person, where we are in our body, in our mind, in our soul, like how does that align, and what does that desire enhance or bring to us in that place?
Yeah, and how it can continue to help us evolve going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And to be aware of whether what we're changing into is what we want.
I think it's time for another one of your cards. Tetrahedron.
Okay, we're going to the abstract deck. This is the connections. Deck number 3.
Deck number 3.
Bouquet of flowers. So it'll be card number 39.
Pretty close to where we were. Are we in the same series?
No, it'll be third eye.
Oh, okay.
So this is third eye, ajna, blue, water, intersecting with I feel, svadhisthana, metal, orange. So on the card, it's orange or it's blue and orange together, which are complementary colors. It's a very dynamic looking card. So how you learn, how you see the world, how you understand the world, how you make sense of wisdom, how all of that is influenced by your feelings, your sensations, your instinct.
So this is third eye and second chakra.
Yes.
Okay. So we're sticking with the second chakra, right? We're sticking with
right here.
That down there. But we've added the third eye, which is it's where the brain is. The third eye is a very interesting chakra to me. I think I need to learn more, study more about the way that it's been talked about historically. Because the third eye has always been interesting. I think it came to me culturally as being a psychic. That somehow that's what it meant, right? Open your third eye meant, be a psychic, see the world, see beyond the world, see between the world, all of those kind of things. But in your system, it's more intellectual, I think. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
It's
and intellectualism as it is turned towards mysticism.
So kind of a rooted looking outward.
It's the absorption and understanding and perception, if I didn't say that already, of information and ideas. And whether they be scientific or mythological or mathematical or, I don't know, situational, how are you perceiving the information that's coming into you?
Mm-hmm.
How do you see the world? And how that's influenced by the way you feel. And you can feel warm water on your skin. You can feel happy. You can feel like it's time to go. So there's a lot happening down in the viscera that impacts the way we process information. And this card has come up, this concept has come up in different formats with different decks. And I don't remember if this is the one with the factory on the river dumping sludge into the water or not, but there's the idea here that you need to be aware of the way in which you're filtering information through your emotions and how that colors the way you're understanding what you know.
Well, I feel like we've already had the discussion about this card, and then the card came up because we were talking about like desires and emotions and your true desires and connecting it to a more intellectual place, or starting with the intellectual place and understanding how the true emotions, the true depths of what you have within you are affecting them. So I think this is a recapitulation of that idea that you have to connect those two. So for you, it's an internal looking out connection. You have to connect the deepness of your emotions with the more intellectual place of your rational thought. And it's interesting, the third eye sits right in front of the executive functioning center of the brain. And, that's where our thoughts really happen. It's where the now exists in our brain. And it's where like ADD exists in the brain. Tourette's closer to that part. And that's where things are happening right now. And there is that sort of the same thing like can happen spiritually, like the sort of spiritual connections. When I draw my cards, this is where I feel the tingling. It's in the third eye.
So I was curious to see if this would be the factory on the river dumping sludge, and it's not. It'd be the inversion of this. That would be where metal is the main focus and water is influencing it. This one is I profess that I see inspiration in the achievements of others. So this one, okay, all right, I know what that one is. That's a reminder to myself. Okay, the image for this one is a bucket full of water being rusted out, and it was my reminder to myself to beware of jealousy. And the way in which the way I perceive other people's accomplishments and how that makes me feel.
Well, this goes back to our root image for this reading.
Yeah. So the orange on top would have been the factory by the river. This is the rusty bucket.
The rusty bucket.
So when I think I'm better at it. Since I wrote all this in 2019 and 2020. I was suffering from other people's success. And that's not a good place to be.
No.
And I needed a reminder in the deck to come up every now and then to refocus me on looking at what they've accomplished and how that then becomes a step towards something else. It's not bad that somebody accomplished something. It's good that they did that, so now I don't have to, and I can do something else.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a unfortunate series of experiences where I'm forced to do some stuff.
Yes.
And it's not advantageous at all. And then somebody comes in, lots of somebodies come in, and they pull your idea apart and they take little portions of it, and then they go have great success with all the little portions, but your own idea never landed because it was too soon. And then somebody else even later than that will come and put it all back together and then be successful with it.
This is the iPhone. Apple is not the first to market with a smartphone. They're mini smartphones, bad smartphones, ones that didn't work very well, but they were the first.
Mm-hmm.
They got out there. BlackBerry is a good example. BlackBerry was successful, but it wasn't a smartphone, not yet.
No,
it was just a good texting platform. And you had Palm Pilot, which was kind of okay.
Pilot.
Yeah, it was kind of okay. It accomplished that you could read books on it. That was cool.
I never used it for that. I like the stylus, and I could write in cursive and it would text for me.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, there was a lot of smart devices that came about, and then Steve Jobs and his wonderful design team sat down and looked at the field, looked at all the bad things, the half measures.
Yep. And how you put them all together into one device that actually works.
Yep. And they created the iPhone, and it changed everything. They weren't the first to market, and they were 10 years behind some of the market. I mean, I remember having some of the early smart devices back, almost in college. My dad had a Palm Pilot. I think I inherited one while I was in college. That was almost 10 years before the iPhone came out. So you've been there. You and I took that journey with you a little bit. We both had firsts, and we kind of fed off of each other. Mm-hmm. I think you were the prime mover, and then I kind of responded to what you were doing, and we created some beautiful ideas.
Mm-hmm. And they're still out there doing stuff.
They're still out there. Yeah.
And actually there's one company that ended up putting it all back together and doing it, and didn't even hardly rename their project, just kind of stole the entire name, everything. But this is where I have to be careful not to fall into jealousy, to be upset that somebody else found success. These were good ideas. It was too soon. Other people saw how to take something with it and make it more applicable. And now the original idea comes back and it's doing what it's supposed to do. The frustration is that I don't get the benefits of it, but okay, fine, whatever. But that spilled over into other parts of my life, like this choreographer or that writer or this blogger or that podcaster, whatever. It's too much comparison looking out at other people and allowing my emotions to then color how I see what they've done.
Going back to the tree that's been shaped, right? It's adapted.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take that into consideration when we do look outward. We have to do that from a really solid place inward. It's why the sixth chakra, the third eye, is so high, is because we need to have dealt with fear, guilt, shame, grief, and lies before we can get to a point where we're okay to really start looking out. And it's hard because we're visual creatures. That's actually one of our strongest senses. Smells really good too, but we really do, as a human race, respond to things visually. We see faces in everything because we're keyed into it. And
like in whirl patterns and wood slabs. I mean, I can find faces anywhere, or like in the dots in the ceiling, like the popcorn textures.
Exactly. We visually look for meaning in static, and that's an evolutionary advantage, right? That's why we exist right now as we exist. But it means that it's hard because one of the first things that we do is we look outward, and it's very easy to look outward and then find ourselves in comparison, find ourselves in competition, in jealousy, without mastering the lower chakras first.
And then allowing that emotional response to twist your understanding and shape you towards, I mean, I guess some people are motivated by jealousy. I am not. I feel demotivated by it, but some people will see somebody do something and they feel competitive and they want to do something else. It's like, that's not how I respond to it. That's fine. Okay. If that's how you respond to jealousy. But when I see something that makes me feel jealousy, it makes me also feel depressed.
Well, you're describing inspiration. Others are get inspired by something. They may view it as a challenge, but it's an inspirational challenge. You're taking it as jealousy. They're taking it as inspiration. Those are two very different places to be.
Well, it's also very unfair on my part because when I experience jealousy, generally speaking, it's because I'm looking at somebody and seeing them as being, here we are, I'm looking at somebody, seeing them as being undeserving of whatever it is they got, and then mad that I don't have it. It's like, well, they're not a better choreographer than me. They're not a better this. They're not a better that. Why them? Why them? Why not me? And that's the reshaping that you have to be very careful of because it's demotivating. It causes you to turn a lot of poison on yourself and on other people who probably don't deserve it. Now, I'm not going to say that there are no situations where you shouldn't feel a little bit of outrage, maybe even a lot of outrage about some kind of a situation. I'm talking about this pettiness that was living inside of me.
It's very different, and it's a good thing. A rusty bucket is an interesting image, and it flows together with what you're describing, but it's still a bucket. And rust can be taken off. You can descale something. I mean, sometimes something can rust so much that it's done.
But these non-galvanized buckets that they rust all the way through, and there's holes in them, and just corroded to the point where there's nothing to be done.
But there's sort of an interesting part of this, which is that you shouldn't have left the water in the bucket. Like it's a tool. The water in the bucket's a tool. The bucket's a tool. Why did you fill it with water and then let it sit? And that's kind of where I definitely see and hear what you're saying. And jealousy does that.
Stagnant water that then ends up with like mosquito larvae in it and all sorts of crazy stuff.
And that's very dangerous. And so I think this is a good reminder that, first of all, get good tools, right? Don't use just regular old iron as your
galvanized. In fact, I'm glad you said that because I think the prose part of this entry in the book makes a point about galvanization. I'm pretty sure that it does. And the way galvanization, protects metal from from corrosion, and it can also be used to restart your heart, and can be used to fortify you emotionally. This word galvanize has multiple meanings, but all of them have to do with reinforcement and strengthening. So when we're looking at this particular intersection of water and metal, where water is the main focus, it's the information itself that matters. The emotions you bring to it are what change it. That somebody won this award, or started this website, or has this podcast, or wrote that blog, that's just simple information. You're changing it with your lens of emotionality or sensation or instinct. What you're looking at is just data. The way you're processing it, that's you. And so be aware of which filter you're applying to information. It may not be the appropriate one. It might be. You might have every reason to be upset, but just be aware of when it's appropriate and when it's not.
And I go back to our root image for this. The tree on the cliff, I find to be beautiful. I think the shaping of it, the adaptation of it to be there is beautiful. I think that speaks to me. The tree in the middle of the forest is sort of just another tree in the middle of the forest. Like, yes, it grew straight up, but that's the only thing it could do, right? Because that's where it was, in the middle of the forest. The only thing it could do was grow straight up because it needed sun. It needed nutrition. Yeah.
But when you see a lone tree on a cliff, I mean, that's balls. I mean, well, you put down roots in a very inhospitable place, and you're holding on, and you're growing, and you're going with the flow literally, and you're still there.
And so you may not be as tall as the 1,000-year-old sequoia in the middle of the forest.
What? I bet your root system is more interesting. Mm-hmm. Holding on for dear life, honey.
And yeah, you need to understand your filter. You need to understand your jealousy. You need to understand that you can't compare two things truly. Like, the context of those two things are going to be different. It's hard because in capitalism, some people get money, some people don't. Same idea, right? And the iPhone is the best-selling phone in the world, and that's an incredible achievement for Apple. And people will be like, well, they don't deserve it, and they don't advance as fast as Android, and that's true. They aren't poking at the edges of the science of phones. They just keep making a phone that people will buy. Yeah, it's really good. It works. It's not the fanciest, and it doesn't have all of the bells and whistles that some other things do, but the people that buy it for consistency.
That's why I buy it. And something else to consider is that I'm not a coder. Mm-hmm. I don't want to know where the folders are. I don't want to change the settings. I don't want any of that. Just tell me which font to use, make it whatever color you want, put whatever background you want. I don't care. I just want it to work. Mm-hmm. When I have access to everything, I have just enough knowledge to break it. Mm. Don't show me where the folders are. In version 19.2.65 or whatever, if you think that this font needs to be a little bit darker gray, fine, whatever. I don't care. But I'm using it as a tool. I'm using it as a tool for organization. I'm not using it as a tool for creativity per se, not the way these people want open systems do. Mm-hmm. I'm not looking for that kind of creativity because I'll break it. I want it to work in a stable manner so I can be creative in the way I know how, without having to worry about being creative in the way I don't know how.
I think this goes back to kind of what we're talking about. There's too much input. There's too much external ideas. There's looking too far. And I think that's where jealousy sits in. Get inspiration, right? I think the flip side of this is saying get inspiration from things around you, but don't go to the point of jealousy. And like you said, you were judging the worthiness of the person that was receiving it.
Yeah. And that's not fair because they received whatever it was. So something in them was deserving. And if I remember correctly, the profession was, I profess that I see inspiration in the success of others. So it's trying to flip what you're describing at this moment is the profession on the other deck. So that is precisely right. If you're going to feel these types of way, be aware of which polarity is expressing itself with your emotions.
There's authors I can't stand the writing of that are incredibly well sold.
Yeah.
Incredibly well sold. Very, and it would be very easy to be like, well, it's not really good writing. But you know what? Somebody likes it.
A lot of somebody's like
it. And that's okay. And I think that's...
it's fine because Oscar Wilde said everything that's popular is wrong. So, I can always find a way out.
And trust the catty gaze. There's always a way to take inspiration, which is they found their audience. And you need to find yours.
How do I find mine?
Yeah, exactly. How do you get inspired to create your version of whatever this is? And how do we do less judgment?
And how are you even going to create guideposts for success? And what does success look like? And why do you want it?
Because you got to go back to the root image. You got to go back to your roots. Where do you come from? What soil are you growing in? What is possible for you? And what do you desire to make for yourself, to create for yourself, to be for yourself? And then let the heart, the throat, and the third eye look at others, experience others.
When we do the members only portion of this, remind me to say something about what success is and what it looks like.
Success. All right. Success for the members only. I think we're ready for another card. I'm going to pull. This one's got a lot more energy to it. Okay. This one definitely wants to be heard. Oh, look at this. Our missing chakra. So we have third chakra. This is the Sentinel of Flames. The time has come to burn brightly. The time has come to burn brightly. So the Sentinel is the knight. This would be the Knight of Wands in the tarot. The Sentinel is about action, about going forth in the suit, court cards. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word for a second. In the court cards, this is about going out and you've thought about it. Now it's time to do it. And there are thousands of amazing ideas left lingering on the drawing board every minute of every day. It is far from easy to take an idea and move from thinking about it to actually doing it. There can be very realistic constraints, time or money, the expertise to do the work. Grand visions are amazing, but at some point, all that grandeur has to be broken down into concrete pieces that begin to exist here, in the now, in the world. You have that power, but it requires you to look at yourself without judgment and answer the question, what can I do? You'll never be the master of everything you wish you could be, but that doesn't mean you can't start a journey toward mastery. You do not need to create masterwork in order to do work. What is holding you back? How can you shape your ideas into smaller plans which can then be constructed, made real? Don't let shame consume your energy. You are ready. You just need to start.
So, relating that back to the idea of how one adapts, the question, what is holding you back? A lot of times it's understanding a workflow. So just be literal for a moment. If you're held back by being overwhelmed, then part of what you should consider adjusting in yourself is the way you manage time, the way you prioritize activities, the way in which you set smaller guideposts towards the final destination. So that blockage, if it's coming from not knowing how to act, is actually one of the easier ones to address. So look at your work habits and your preferences, look at your environment, make sure you're comfortable, and see if that doesn't help.
The blocker here is shame. And the shame can dull your fire, it can put it out.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to burn. This is the time to burn brightly, is what it's saying. This is the time to shine. This is the time to stoke your fires, and you can't do that with shame. You have to let that go. And part of it is also, again, being honest with yourself, right? You you can dream of curing cancer, but that's a road with a lot of steps that you're going to have to take. And that's great. And at a certain point in your life, you have to kind of take stock of where am I, what can I accomplish? It's never too late. I was in my grad program with someone who was 67, and he was just coming to a place in his life where he wanted to be a therapist and went back to school to do that. So it's not too late. It's not that you can't do it, but you do have to kind of take stock of where you are and what you have in this moment and what you need. And what you need to do sometimes is to break it down. And like the individual wands, like the individual sticks in a bundle, you have to kind of break it down. It's okay to have disparate pieces, but you got to line those up, right? You got to put them in order to go from here to there. So I think, going back to our root image adaptation, you are where you are, accept it, but you can still strive and grow and change and work towards something. You just have to be honest about where you are right now and what steps you have to take to get there. So, I mean, going back to the bodybuilding examples that we had before, like, where are you right now? Like, I'm 120 pounds overweight, something like that. Maybe a little bit less. That's where I am right now, and that's where I have to start. And so what are the steps, right, to get from there to something that would be considered medically healthy? What are the pieces that I have to lay down? What are the challenges that I have to overcome? And all the time, I have to burn brightly, not because I'm forcing myself to, but because that's the only way forward. In the dark, I have to be my own light.
So when a flame burns brightly, it's because it's got a lot of fuel. So whether that's wood or paper or gas or whatever it is, you're feeding that fire. They don't just become big because they're big. They are a manifestation of the energy that's being consumed and is available. So something else to consider is, if now is the time to burn brightly, what further assets can you bring to what you're doing? Is it more time? Is it more study? Is it more effort? Is it more people? Maybe collaboration is part of this process. But for a flame to burn brightly, you have to feed the fire. You can't just want it to burn brighter. You have to do something to feed that fire. Action. What are you going to put into it? We had this conversation recently. What color is your fire? What are you putting into your fire? What are you feeding it? But you do have to feed it if you're going to burn brightly. It might be more emotional investment. It might be more, to your point, action. I do. That's the mantra for Manipura is I do. It more focus, more money. I don't know, but you have to invest in whatever this is, so that it has a chance to really come to full flame. And then how do you sustain it? Because you don't want to dump all your resources into it, get this huge burst of fire, and then it all just burns out. You have to stoke this fire as well. Once you build it, you have to maintain it.
This is like the coal fire in the train, right? This is, you need it to burn for purpose. At a certain temperature. You can't get it too hot because you'll melt and break the walls of the stove, of the oven. You can't let it go too low, because then you won't have the energy needed to push the locomotive forward. Or
to make steam. Yeah.
You need it just right.
It's a balancing point. This isn't a bonfire that's going to burn for an hour. This has to be, stoking this fire to get you from Philadelphia to San Francisco.
And it's not a raging wildfire. Mountains. It's not a raging wildfire.
No.
It's not let loose, and you're not burning everyone around you and consuming resources that are outside of you. This is really internally focused and based.
And let's clarify, burning brightly doesn't mean burning destructively. It doesn't mean burning wildly necessarily. Burning brightly can happen in a small space.
Mm-hmm.
Contain this energy, contain this effort, so that it's all being directed towards what you need it to do. Kind of like the fire on a stovetop.
Yep.
It's all going towards the purpose of cooking your food. There's no other fire going around. If your house burns down, that's one way to burn bright.
Yep.
But that's not what we're talking about right here.
No, and in the series that leads up to this, so in the Suit of Wands and the Suit of Flames, for me, there's the Eight of Flames, which is where you learn that these external fires, right, these sticks of fire that you've been using, if you create an oven for them, right, if you create a contained space for them, suddenly their power becomes exponential.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn to harness the flame in the card. So at this point, the Sentinel has learned to harness the flames and direct them. And that's what the coal fire on a ship, right? The old ships,
mm-hmm.
on the locomotives, that's the kilns, right? Because a regular fire, like if you just light a piece of wood on fire, you can't melt metal.
No.
But if you stoke that flame and concentrate that flame and shape the way the energy is going and focusing, you can melt iron.
Mm-hmm. You make swords,
and that's an incredible feat when you think about it, because you to put a sword in a bonfire, it just gets hot. It
mm-hmm.
doesn't melt. You can't shape anything with it.
And looking back at the context card, that may require you to adapt your habits or adapt your mindset or adapt your workflow. And as long as it's making you more effective without costing you any pain, then holding on to past habits that aren't effective is just, silly.
Well, sometimes
don't be silly.
Don't be silly.
Don't be silly.
Sometimes you have to let old habits go. Sometimes you have to reshape things. Like, part of growing is changing.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, actually, the fire burning brightly, you still have to adapt that to who you are and where you are and what you're doing and where you find yourself. Remember that it's about being honest with where you find yourself and what do you have to do. You're not going to be someone else. This is where that jealousy kind of comes back. You're not going to be them. You can't follow their pathway. Like, I can't start a blog right now and become a millionaire. We're not in that time.
No, that age passed.
An
age is past. And going back a step further in the reading, part of your process needs to include feedback, constructive criticism. And looking back to, the wind moving through your branches, it really is not helpful to do a project completely on your own because you cannot see everything. You do need perspective from other people. When somebody comes and gives you feedback about whatever it is you're working on, let some of it blow away. If some of it's not helpful, let some of it blow away.
When you're working towards your desire,
hope it's something else. Air feeds fire. Mm-hmm. So this constructive criticism is a wind, is a breath that actually fuels your fire. Mm-hmm. You have to get feedback. You have to.
Well, as you work towards your desires, you do need the stabilization of others. You need the connection of others. You aren't alone. This is what spirituality teaches us, right? We're not alone in this. We feel that way. And it seems that way at the start, right? When you're just working on your root chakra, mm-hmm. and you're just working on personal safety and fear, right? When you
can't look outward yet.
Yeah, all you have is that sense of existential being. And it's why, in philosophy, the existentialists, it's hard to overcome them because they spout something very true and real, which is, for a moment, as you really look at yourself and define yourself, you are in isolation and staring into a void. And there's nothing there until you realize it's fear that you're facing.
Mm-hmm.
And until you overcome that fear. And the existential anxiety and the existential fear is very real for a lot of people. It's a starting point, but it feels like an overwhelming starting point for a lot.
Sure. Extending the metaphor a bit with feedback. Some of that wind may feel like it's going to puff your fire out.
Mm-hmm.
But that becomes a reminder for letting some of that stuff blow through your branches. You keep what's helpful, you let the rest go. Don't avoid criticism because you're afraid somebody's going to put your fire out. Whatever they give you, even if it all sounds like a mess. A process I just went through, I paid for some feedback and it was terrible feedback. It wasn't helpful at all. So what did I do? I went and got feedback on the feedback. So although her air could have puffed out my fire, the voices of 8 other people helped me understand that feedback. And now I'm working on the second draft of a novel. So you don't let the feedback puff out your actions.
Well, there's a choke on the oven, right? There's a control of the airflow just the same as there's a control of the fuel. It's a dance that you're doing, and you do need the air of others, but you don't need all the air. And those people that try to blow on you, right? They're not just talking. They're purposely trying to blow out your fire.
And see, that's not constructive criticism. So
no.
You need constructive criticism, and constructive criticism isn't always what you want to hear, but it's also purposely avoiding being damaging. It's delivering the same information with kindness in a way that allows the recipient to hear what's being said. So sometimes you have to ask the question, am I just being oversensitive, or does this person not know how to give constructive criticism?
Usually a combination.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes more of the latter, because a lot of people don't know. We don't teach it in schools. We don't teach it in society. We just yell at each other.
Yeah, a lot of that could be avoided with knowing how to give constructive criticism.
And oftentimes it becomes a personal thing rather than an idea thing. We've lost the semblance of civility, and it's become a wind tunnel in the social medias. So yeah, be careful. Be careful where you put your ideas. Be careful where you open yourself up to criticism. Do it in the right spaces with the right people at the right time. I think that's truly, what we're facing. I think we need a final card. What do you think?
I agree. Do you want me to roll?
Yes.
Deck number 2. We're going to go quite literal here and just read a profession.
All right. I like that.
That's a lot of variety in my decks. Usually we get one repeated, but 4, 3, 2, It got caught on something. Do you want to take it?
Yeah, let's take it.
Okay, 25.
25.
Okay, so coming back to the heart, wood, green, I love, and how it's impacted by purple, crown, akasha, I know. I profess that I love a wide variety of people and the richness their diversity adds to the world.
I want to point out, we did not get the root chakra.
No, we did not.
We did not. So this is not a matter of fear and stability. You already have that. Like, you're already operating from a point of safety, firm groundedness, right? That's you've already got that. So that's not the trouble that you're facing right now. The trouble that you're facing is viewing yourself. How do you view yourself? How do you understand yourself? And now here, read that again.
I profess that I love a wide variety of people and the richness their diversity adds to the world.
Yeah. So as you're going about the thing that you're doing it for the diversity of those around you. for the diversity of the world. There's a very external focus to the end of this reading. We have dealt with the internal. We've dealt with our desires. We've come up and looked at the wind of others, the interaction of others. We've looked for inspiration. We are burning brightly, right? We're fueling our oven, our kiln, or whatever your creative fire of choice is. Or I'll say not creative, generative, because this doesn't have to be creativity. This doesn't have to be about your creativity. This can just be about your work, the things that you do. I do. What is your generative fire that is fueling your actions? And then this is the why.
Yep.
This is the why you're doing it. Don't forget, because we're not dealing with existential fear and dread, right? We're not dealing with that at the moment. We've conquered that. We're okay with that. We realize that we have a connection to others, that there is a cosmic ocean, a pool or well of souls. There is beyond us, and we are connected to that. And that's where we need to operate from. That has to be out there at the front of what we're doing.
So everything that's going on, how does it affect other people in a way that benefits them? It's not to say that you have to be selfless and generous all the time, but just being aware of what the ripple is going to be once you take these actions or make these creative projects or finish this work. Okay, bear in mind that you're not operating in isolation. Somehow, in some way, it might be a small ripple that you can't perceive, or it might be a very large one that you intend. But somehow, you are going to be part of this ongoing conversation about the evolution of our culture. And everybody's adding something. It might be their work, it might be their ideas, it might be their art. But you are contributing to what's happening in the world around you. And in that way, you are playing into the feedback loop that ends up coming back around and affecting your own reality.
I'm watching The Last of Us season 2, and I won't spoil anything in case people
don't, because I want to watch that.
There's just there's a theme of community that you kind of reminded me of, and it's small actions as well as big actions. And I was thinking that was at Wawa yesterday, and this, I don't know, maybe 10-year-old boy held the door open for some people. Yes. And that's not something that you always see, right? We're coming away from a time where you always held the door for people. Mm-hmm. And now we kind of, like we'll pass the door behind us or something, but there's fewer times where we'll stop and hold the door for someone else to go through. And it's a small action. It's a very small action, but it was nice. It added to the positivity of the community for a minute.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it even if it's not long term, it probably elevated the moods of the people that experienced it. Mm-hmm. And if any of them were walking in to have some kind of an interaction, maybe that, lubricated that to be more positive. I mean, you don't know. Somebody might have been going in there to complain about, I don't know, anything. But this person holding the door, they go up to the counter and now they're in a better mood. And mm-hmm. it matters. It matters. And
I think it's just a I can't talk. A reminder. I was trying to say like reminiscence and reminder at the same time. Did not work. It's a reminder that your fire, your actions don't have to be monumental, consequential things. They can be little things. We are a community together. We have a diversity. And when we add to that encounter, to that experience, right, that we have all together, that has an effect. So intentionally make it a positive one. Everything that you do every day has an effect. Make it a good one.
Remember a little while ago, I said to remind me during the members section to success. Ask me my why about success. Well, here's the card. Here it is. This is what I was going to say. You still pay to hear me say it, but you know,
yes. We'll get there. We'll get there in a second.
We'll get there in a minute. But this is the why. As an artist or a creative type or a worker, I personally want to leave people in places better than I find them.
Mm-hmm. That's my personal mission. Everything that I do, I look at how am I positively impacted, and I want to know or feel that what I do every day has a positive impact, because I deal with things that don't seem that way at first.
Mm-hmm. Well, but here's the card. So,
yeah. We have a members only Patreon where you can get longer episodes with our personal interaction with the readings. So if you want to know how those readings affected us and what we kind of take away from them, then you can go to Patreon and you can subscribe and get more. We also have a YouTube, Show Your Deck on YouTube, where we put the video of the cards that we're pulling so that you can see the lovely, pretty colors and things that we worked on together. Our books and our decks are available at showyourdeck.com, so you can buy those and support us. Jack, where can we find you?
I'm at 49 Haiku. That's the number 4, the number 9, HAIKU. On the internet, that would be 49haiku.com. And on Instagram, it is at 49 Haiku.
And I am Dean Sage Media. Find me if you dare. We do have an Instagram for the show. It's at your deck, and we'll say goodbye.